Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. I'm laughing to myself because whenever I listen to YouTubers or podcasters, they've all got their own individual way of like introducing the channel or the show and saying hello to their listeners or their viewers. And I was thinking just before we started, like, should I change this up? Is it same old hat introducing the same way? And I hate the phrase hello guys or hey guys. It feels very done and very cliche, but I'm laughing to myself because regardless of how much I think about changing it, like it just flows that way. And genuinely, I do want to welcome everybody. If you're new here, then absolutely welcome, and it's so good to have you. And if you are an OG or you've been here before, then welcome back. But yeah, it just becomes habitual, and I don't think that will ever change. So it is what it is, as they say. And just on the subject of welcoming new listeners, there has been a little bit of a dip in the listeners to each episode lately. And it's because of the ratings and reviews. You need to get regular ratings and reviews on podcasts to keep them high up in the algorithm and searchable. And I've not had a proper review since February. And I don't even think that I've had anyone press the stars button for quite a few weeks. And I know there's loads of you listening. I know that people message me all the time saying how much they have got value from certain episodes or they love the podcast in general. So if you could please go and follow the show, that is super, super important, super helpful. If you're not following the show, just click the follow button on whatever platform you listen on. And if you've got access to Apple, then if you could write a review, that would be so very much appreciated. And whatever platform you listen on, you can always click the 5-star button as well. And that just keeps it searchable, keeps us being able to get new listeners by them searching for like the topics rather than having to find the show by the name, which unless you're aware of it, doesn't really happen. So I would be so grateful if you could all go and do that. So on to today's topic. Now, this is something that I have been aware of for quite a while. So it's all about the power of intentions and intention setting. Now, the word intention is something that we're all aware of. We all understand, I would imagine, what an intention is. But understanding the importance of utilising intention settings when you are setting long or short-term goals or really going into any situation, it didn't really dawn on me until I'd say probably the beginning of this year, really. I've sort of played around with the idea for a while, but it's only been this year where I've been consistent in setting intentions and in really understanding the value of doing that. So it was probably maybe the Bali retreat that I went on in 2018 that kind of set me about this self-development journey. Maybe it was then when I first heard the concept, or maybe before that in books. But you'll hear a lot in self-development work and spiritual like books and things like that. Set your intentions and why you should set your intentions. And it was only when I got a diary that I've probably been using for maybe like 3 or 4 years now. I think I'm on maybe my 3rd one. Each day that diary asks, and it's not a diary like Dear Diary, it's a planner to plan my day, but it does ask questions about what has been like the highlights of your week and challenges, and it asks you to reflect quite a lot at the end of the quarter and the year. And it asks every single day, what is your intention? And it's only really been this year that I've used it religiously every single day and set those intentions daily. And it has made a huge difference. And I was also having a conversation this week with my fitness trainer. We were talking about how basically I've not had a great week with my, not so much fitness, but with my nutrition last week. There was 2 days in particular where I hit my calories, but I was super low on the protein. And we were just delving into like why that was. And a lot of stuff had gone on personally over last weekend that had really kind of knocked me off my focus. And also I think just being out in the sun, going out with friends for food, I wasn't really focusing on my own intentions. I was focusing more on just whatever was easy and available at the time, which is fine. It's all about balance. But he was saying to me, look, this is the first week this year where you've had consecutive days that you haven't hit your goals or where you've kind of thrown it out the window. A lot of people will do that every weekend or at least once every couple of weeks. And actually he was saying, you strive for 9 or 10 out of 10 every single day. And if you hit the 9 or 10 out of 10, great. But if you don't, then you're coming in at like a 7 or an 8. Whereas if you're only striving for mediocrity or the bare minimum every day and that slips, then obviously it's going to slip down to like a 3 or a 4. And it reminded me of a phrase that I'd heard years ago. And I think it was my dad that actually told me this phrase many, many moons ago. And he said, if you aim for the moon, you'll land on the stars. If you aim for the stars, you'll land on the roof. If you aim for the roof, you will land on the ground. Basically what that means is if you overshoot or you aim for more than what you think you're capable of, or you aim for the absolute best, then even if you don't quite make that, you're going to end up in a better situation than what you would have done if you'd only aimed for mediocrity. And that's always stuck with me because it's really easy to fall into just habits every day of just trying to get by and trying to do the bare minimum. And don't get me wrong, that this doesn't apply to every area of life all the time. Like there's going to be ebbs and flows, and there's going to be months or weeks or years where you're focusing on your raising of your children and your fitness takes a backseat, or you're focusing on work and career and family takes a backseat. You can't have perfect balance and symmetry in every single area of your life all the time. But I think if you are striving for as good as you possibly can do in each area, then the ones that do need to take a bit of a backseat, it's not going to be completely sidelining them. So let me give you an example. If you were, the first example that I gave there, like a mum, and you were a new mum and you were also into fitness, and for the first like 2 or 3 years of your child's life, your fitness was just not at the level that it was before. Let's say before you were like lifting 3 or 4 times a week, you were maybe running, or you were, I don't know, doing team sports, and it had to take a back seat. So let's just use lifting as an example. If whilst you were raising your children or your child in those years, you only managed 2 home workouts a week, that's better than the person that's doing nothing. Or you only managed to get out for walks with the baby in the first year for making sure you hit your 10,000 steps. That's better than the person that's just sitting in and watching TV every day. So aiming for being like really good, or aiming for the best that you can be, will always put you in a better situation than what you were in. And so what this really did for me was make me realize that because I'd been setting intentions with my fitness, and my intention was I do my steps every day, I eat my macros in balance every day of what I've been set, and I work out 3 times a week, that when that slipped, or when maybe I didn't get out for a daily walk, or when my macros were off like they were last weekend and I didn't get enough protein, that was taking me down to a 7 or an 8 out of 10 rather than a 3 or 4 out of 10, which would have happened if I hadn't set that intention in the first place. So we're all really familiar with, or I would imagine we are, the phrase, go with the flow. And going with the flow is normally a phrase that people use to refer to like just being easy, just being chill, just, going with life. And whilst I do agree with going with the flow in terms of life does have a flow to it, and sometimes we will try and manipulate or change things, or we will try and control the outcome, and going with the flow of life in that instance is always a better idea because there's things that we just can't control. But also going with the flow can mean that you never set your direction, you never set your goals, you never set your intentions, and you can end up just floating from 1 week to the next, 1 month to the next, 1 year to the next, and not ever really getting where you want to be, or not ever really getting anything out of those hours and weeks and months and years. And so it's really dangerous to just go with the flow all of the time. And don't get me wrong, you might be listening to this and thinking, fuck off, Nikki, that's me, I just want to go with the flow all the time. I'd probably guess that if you are listening to this, that you're not that sort of person, and that actually you do have goals and you have dreams and you want to better yourself. The idea of going with the flow then is more what I was referring to in that first example of allowing things to flow, but also setting the direction of where you want to be, setting those intentions, rather than just getting up every day and not having any sort of intentional strategy or goal and it just getting away from you. We've all been there, I would think, where I certainly have, where we've set goals at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year, and you've done nothing you've not looked at when those goals need to be achieved, you've not looked at the quarters, you've not looked at the time of your life that you're in, the season, you've not done any of the things that we've talked about in previous episodes about planning and setting goals. You've just put down, I don't know, want to change jobs, move house, go on 2 holidays, get into the best shape of my life, or lose 2 stone. And then you put it in a drawer and you just forget about it. And then it comes to the end of the year and you think, oh, I should set some new goals now. Oh, I wonder how I got on with the goals that I set this year. And nothing's changed. You're still in the same house. You're still in the same job. You're still exactly the same fitness and health level. And life is pretty much the same as it was at the beginning of the year. Maybe there's certain changes, certain things that are different. But I'd hazard a guess that in those times, you're not any further forward than you would have been had you have looked at setting those goals properly and really looking at setting the intentions. Now that's on a macro level. So setting intentions in terms of actually understanding where you want to go is on a macro, on a big level, on a, year to year, quarter to quarter basis. But it's just as important, maybe if not more important, and certainly this is where it's had the biggest impact on me, is to set intentions for almost everything that you do, whether that is a work day, what do you want to get out of it, whether it is a meeting with a friend, whether it's your weekend. It could be one of many, many things that you set that intention for. But what setting the intention does is it focuses your energy, it focuses your ability to say yes to everything that aligns with that and say no to everything that doesn't. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3 month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. So the first thing that I would say when it comes to setting intentions and really how to go about this is you have to know what you want. You have to, and I'm not necessarily saying you need to know the exact house you want to live in, the exact company you want to work for, but you want to know how you want to feel. You want to know the general direction that you want to go in. So like for me, for instance, when I was starting my business, I knew that I wanted to start a business that was to do with servicing brands that were in like that health and wellness space, that were better for you. I didn't really have an interest in working with alcohol brands or tobacco or betting and gaming. Well, I say gaming, betting and gambling really, because there's some elements of gaming that are actually in alignment with my values. But that intention when I started the business has changed. It's grown, it's evolved. I now work a lot more in international markets as well as the UK. The intention that I had at the beginning is still there, but it's changed and it's grown and it's almost become more clear and more laser focused than it was. So I'm not sat here saying you've got to have the exact blueprint of what it is that you want, but you know, if you know that you want to move to a hot country, for instance, and you commit to a house in the UK and create a debt in the form of a 5-year mortgage, you're not moving anywhere in the next 5 years. I mean, maybe you are, maybe you could Airbnb it or something, but the chances are that that's going to be put down the road. Now, if you know that that is probably maybe 5 or 10 years away, then great. But saying yes to things now that don't align with what it is that you want in that time frame is just pointless. So knowing what you want is so important, and knowing how you want to feel, I would say, is more important. So I'll give you an example of this. I sometimes go into my gym sessions and I know that I want to feel accomplished when I come out of it. I very rarely go into those sessions and say, right, I need to hit, 20 hip thrusts at 80k times 3 or whatever it might be. I just go in with the intention of I want to come out feeling strong and accomplished. And that might look very different as I get into the session and start working with my energy and start working with how I'm feeling that day and the equipment that's available. But I always want that intention to be at the forefront of my mind. So if something isn't feeling good, or I'm feeling like I could push myself more to get that accomplished feeling, then that will be how I adjust those sessions as I go through them. And likewise, at the start of every day, I will set the intention of, maybe like yesterday, I had 3 really great meetings, and I knew at the start of that day that whether I got business from those meetings or not, I wanted to come away feeling like I'd made a really good connection, like I'd made a good impression on those individuals, and that I had got across my expertise so that in the future I could comfortably reach out to them knowing that it would be a warm reconnect. Now, if I got business from those meetings, fantastic. But if I didn't, then I definitely knew that I would do everything that I could to come away from those meetings with that feeling after each one of them. And I did, because at the forefront of my mind throughout the meeting was, how can I create a stronger connection with this person? How can I get my expertise across better? If I'd have just gone into the meetings and just thought, right, I'm meeting with this person, let's see how it goes, I'd have probably kicked myself when I came off those calls, and I'd have probably felt like there was so much more I could have said and done. I maybe wouldn't have done the presentation that I did to one of them. So you can see how it changes your focus and it changes how you evaluate things as you're going through. Now, I've spoken about this to people in the past, and they've taken it as a not controlling, but as a restrictive thing to do, that they've looked at it as, oh, if I'm setting my intention every single time, then what if it changes? What if something happens during the day and that isn't how I want to feel? Nobody is making you write this in blood or, casting it in stone. You can change your mind. This is your intention. So if in the middle of the day you suddenly become unwell or you suddenly have an urgent matter, your intention to finish that day in a certain way or to have certain interactions might completely change. There's been so many instances where I've literally had to change my whole day, my whole plan, but I'll always try and take the time to check in with myself energetically and think, right, now what is my intention? What is my renewed intention? Because if it was to finish the day feeling really, accomplished within certain client interactions, and now I'm suddenly feeling really unwell, maybe the intention then just changes to rest and recuperation and just doing the bare minimum to get by. So you can change this. It's yours. Nobody's making you, like I say, write this in blood. It's yours, but it focuses your energy, it focuses your attention, and it creates a way of you, like I say, saying no to everything that doesn't align with that. So if my intention on those calls yesterday was to feel connected to my client, I certainly wouldn't be, not giving them eye contact. Maybe if they'd have said something about a hobby that wasn't of interest to me, I wouldn't have gone on to talk about it more because I don't know anything about it or I don't have that connection. Instead, I might have started a conversation about something that is within my experience and something that I feel like we could bond over. So you get the gist. And then I think the bigger picture with this, and you'll hear this spoken about quite a lot in self-development work and, like I say, spiritual books and podcasts, is setting the intention and connecting with your higher self, which in essence is your best self. So the person who is doing all of the things that you want to do, the person that has all of the things that you want to have, the person, and when I say person, this person is you. It's just the best freaking version of you. And that intention then to align with that person creates an absolute divide between what you will and won't do, whether that is on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, because everything that is not in alignment with that, you will say no to. So does your higher self, is she or he super fit and healthy? In which case, if they are, then your intention to connect to that person and become that person will mean that you're a lot more unlikely to snooze your alarm until 9 a.m. every morning and far more likely to get up and go for a walk or go to the gym. Does your higher self have speaking gigs all over the world? Are they an expert in their field, and are they completely inundated with requests to go and talk about what it is or train people or give workshops? In which case, you're probably unlikely to, you're more likely, to put yourself out there to create LinkedIn posts or a blog or a website about your area of expertise, to reach out to people that could give you that connection within your industry or could help to elevate you. So understanding your intention of connecting with your higher self or your best version of you changes the habits that you are going to create and commit to on a daily basis, because as we've said before, your habits create the future you. If you want something in 5 years' time, you need to start the habit of doing whatever it's going to do to get you there now. You're not going to wake up in 5 years' time and be like, oh shit, I had the intention of, being a tour guide in the Philippines, and yet here I am sat doing my office admin job in Scunthorpe. You get what I mean? Just an example. So saying no to everything that isn't that becomes a habit. It becomes easy. Like, for instance, this morning I was absolutely craving something stodgy for breakfast. I really, really, really wanted something like, I don't know, like a vegan sausage roll. And I say vegan because I don't eat pork. Or something like, I don't know, just like a really big like fried breakfast or something. I was just really, really wanting something like heavy. However, I've got health and fitness goals, and I know that the minute I'd have eaten that, I'd have thought, don't feel good. And my intention this morning was to have really good energy through the day because I've got a lot of outbound business development to do. And the energy that I do that in tends to affect the results massively. So I was like, no, Nikki, you need to have a lighter breakfast. You need to have something nutritious, something that's not going to make you fall to sleep. So I had some natural yogurt with berries, fruit and berries, and it was absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so glad that I did that. But had my intention today of just been to feel, I don't know, just to rest and recuperate and to not necessarily be in amazing energy, so it was a Sunday or something, then maybe I would have treated myself. But knowing how I wanted to feel, knowing how I wanted my energy to be throughout the day, just changed what I wanted to say yes to in that moment, despite the cravings. And then you can have intention, multiple intentions throughout the day. So it could be that you set an intention for an interaction. It could be that you set an intention for a friendship. If you're having a difficult time with someone, that you want things to, get back to how they were, or to just feel lighter and nicer again. It might be that during the weekend you have an intention to be more present with your kids. I know so many of my friends that are so busy and so sucked into like their phones and technology that they've said to me recently that they really just want to be more present with their kids and play more games. And now, thank the Lord, the sun is shining in the UK and summer is here. They can do that. So not having that intention going into the weekend might have meant that they would have fallen into old habits, into scrolling on their phone, and then it's Monday again and they're like, oh God, I didn't do what I set out to do. So keeping these intentions and these, reminders in your mind is what is going to keep you accountable to yourself, and it's going to change and shape the decisions that you make through the day. And for instance, my intention for this quarter is like work. I need to get revenue in. I need to increase my client base. I want to do a lot more in the US. So all of the intention that I've got for that quarter then breaks down into daily intentions of, right, I need to speak to X amount of business owners or leaders in the US. I need to have X amount of people that I'm registering that are looking for work in the US that I can speak to those business leaders about. It might be that there's a day where I need to do some changes to my website or something like that. But keeping in mind that my intention for the quarter is revenue, I won't let myself get sucked into that for too long. And if it looks like I'm going to, then I'll outsource it. Had I just gone from month to month, I tend to end up just doing then what I enjoy doing and where my zone of genius is. And it's not always the revenue generation activities. It's not always the things that are going to align with that goal that I've got at the end of the month or the end of the quarter. So have a think about where you really need to set some intentions, where you can, and I'd advise doing this on a daily basis, to be honest. Look at your day in the morning. It takes literally 2 minutes. What do I want out of today? Is it literally just to get through the day? Have you got the kids all day and you know that it's going to be a tough day because it's raining? Is it just to get through the day knowing that you've spent time with them? Or have you got an absolute goal to, slay at work? Where do you need your energy to go and where do you need your focus on a micro level day to day? But then on a macro level, look at your bigger goals. What are your intentions for the year? And I've even got friends that look at like a word for the year. My friend Becca, who was on this podcast near the start, actually, it was last year, talking about taking the leap into starting her own business. I know she sets a word for each year. I think last year my word was hustle, which I'm not super proud that was my word, but I think hustle to me, I can soften that, and it wasn't just workaholic, it wasn't burnout. But this year it's consistency in all of the areas that I know that I need to be consistent in order to hit those goals. And so my intention for the year is consistency, but then breaking that down on more of a micro level, each day and each week will be different. And then I'll also have intentions. Like at the moment, I've got a super difficult, something going on super difficult with a personal relationship of mine. It's been a really tough time deciding how to move forward with that friendship, and knowing that the intention is there from my side, and what that intention is helping to shape the decisions that I make and helping to shape the process that I'm going through with myself, but also with that other person. So have a think about where in your life you can intention set. Where have you maybe set intentions and not really kept it up, not abided by them? Are you just floating through life day to day, week to week, month to month? And if so, maybe this intention setting stuff is going to be the thing that changes you being successful in hitting your goals. But as always, let me know. I'm always really, really intrigued to know how you guys are applying this and what's showing up for you, how it's making you feel. Just, if it's, been a useful episode, which I really, really hope that it has, because when the penny dropped with this for me, it definitely changed the levels of success I was just having in day-to-day life and in hitting my goals. So I hope that's been useful, and I look forward to seeing you all again next Sunday. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.